Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. It all started when Victoria, my fiancée, went on a week-long trip to Europe with her college friends. It was an organized group tour, sightseeing, fancy dinners, the whole package. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I trusted her. We had been together for 4 years, and our wedding was just 6 months away. What could possibly go wrong? She called me every night, sent me pictures, told me she missed me. Everything seemed normal. But when she came back, something was different. She was happy, sure, but it was a different kind of happiness. Not the kind of happiness you get from coming home to your fiancé after a long trip. It was the kind of happiness people have when they're hiding something. When they've got a secret they don't want anyone to know. At first I ignored it. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But then the little things started stacking up. She became distant, always on her phone, smiling at messages she wouldn't let me see. She started going out more. Suddenly she had plans, every other night. One evening I casually asked, "Who are you texting?" She quickly locked her phone. "Just the girls." She said it so naturally, but something felt off. Then came the new habits with her phone. She would take it with her wherever she went in the house, even if it was just for a minute. I'd hear her laughing quietly, like she was sharing a private joke. When she came back to bed, she'd quickly tuck the phone under her pillow, almost like she was hiding something precious. She also started dressing differently. More effort, tighter outfits, more makeup, just to grab coffee or meet the girls. I joked one time, "Damn, you look like you're going on a date." She laughed it off. "Just trying something new." I forced a smile, but inside, something gnawed at me. Then came the excuses. "Sorry, babe, I can't do dinner tonight. I already made plans. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. I need space. I'll be home late. Don't wait up." Victoria, the woman who used to text me nonstop, who used to light up whenever I walked into the room, now acted like I was a background character in her life. One night she came home late, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. I stood by the door, arms crossed. "You smell different." She hesitated for just a second before forcing a laugh. "Probably from the bar. So many people around." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I could feel the distance growing between us, and deep down I knew something was seriously wrong. I decided to fix things between us. Maybe she was feeling neglected. Maybe she needed a reminder of what we had. So, one night, I took her to a nice restaurant downtown. Candlelight, wine, everything perfect. She smiled, but it felt forced, like she was playing a part. Halfway through dinner, I reached for her hand. "Victoria," I said gently, "are we okay?" She hesitated, just for a second. Then she smiled, a little too quickly. "Of course we are, Andrew. I'm just stressed." It was a lie, I felt it, but I let it slide. After dinner, we went for a walk. That's when we ran into her, Sophie, the barista from the coffee shop near my office. I grabbed coffee from there every morning, and Sophie and I had friendly conversations. She was fun, flirty, but I never entertained it. I was an engaged man, after all. "Hey, Andrew!" Sophie greeted me with a bright smile. "Hey," I said, already wanting to avoid the conversation. I gestured beside me. "This is my fiancée, Victoria." Then Sophie's eyes landed on her, and for a split second she froze. It was subtle, but I caught it. "Hi, Victoria. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too," Victoria said and gave a polite smile, then immediately squeezed my hand. "We should go." Sophie's expression shifted, like she wanted to say something, maybe needed to say something, but stopped herself. We said our goodbyes and walked away. That night, just as I was about to sleep, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hey, it's Sophie. I need to tell you something. It's important. Can we meet tomorrow?" I frowned. Why is Sophie texting me at this hour? And how did she get my number? I quickly typed back, "Why are you messaging me this late? Whatever it is, I'm engaged, and I don't want to be part of something inappropriate." "It's not about me," she wrote. "It's about Victoria. Trust me, you need to know this." My heart pounded. I stared at the message. What could she possibly know about Victoria that was so important? "Fine," I replied. "Where can we meet?" The next day we met at a small cafe. Sophie was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked up as I approached, her face serious. I sat down across from her. All right, what's this about? She looked up at me, hesitated, then took a deep breath. I saw Victoria 2 nights ago, at a bar. My stomach tightened. And? She wasn't alone. I felt my pulse in my ears. What do you mean? Sophie exhaled slowly, like she hated being the one to say it. She was with a guy. They were close, laughing, hugging. Then they kissed. The words slammed into me. I gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. You're sure? She nodded. I didn't want to believe it at first, but after seeing her with you last night, acting like everything was fine, I knew I had to tell you. I just sat there, staring at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. My mind refused to process what I'd just heard. Victoria wouldn't do this, would she? I barely said anything after that. I thanked Sophie, though it felt like the words were just automatic. I stood up, feeling numb, and left the cafe without really looking back. My mind was racing, and I could barely process what she'd just told me. Everything felt distant, like I was moving through a fog. There was only one way to know for sure. I needed proof. That night, Victoria was in the shower. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, face down. My heart pounded in my chest. I had never gone through her phone before, never even thought about it. But now I had to know. I picked it up with shaking hands, swiped up, and of course it was locked. I glanced toward the bathroom. The water was still running. Then I remembered. I had seen her unlock it before. The passcode, her birth year, 1995. I typed it in and the phone unlocked. For a second I just stared at it, hoping, begging, that I'd find nothing, that Sophie was wrong, that I was just being paranoid. But as I opened her messages, my stomach dropped. There it was, a conversation with a number I didn't recognize. Can't wait to see you again, he wrote. Me too, Victoria responded. The date of their first message matched the week she left for Europe. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking harder with every message. Flirty texts, inside jokes, messages so intimate they made my skin crawl. Then pictures, him holding her, kissing her. Wish I could lie next to you again, he wrote. Soon, babe, just a couple more days, Victoria replied. I felt my chest caving in. He was from the group Victoria went to Europe with, and apparently he lived in the next city, so he was frequently coming to visit her. They were still sneaking around. The shower turned off. I dropped the phone back onto the nightstand and jumped into bed just as the bathroom door opened. She walked in, towel wrapped around her body, drying her hair with another. Hey, you okay? You look... She trailed off, studying me. I forced a smile. Just tired. She smiled back, leaned over and kissed my forehead. Get some sleep, babe. Her lips felt like poison. I turned away from her, staring at the ceiling in the dark. My fiancé was cheating on me, and I had no idea. But now I did, and I wasn't going to let it slide. I needed more proof, not for me, but to show her that I wasn't just some paranoid, jealous fool. I had to know the full truth. 2 nights later, she told me she was going out with the girls. Her tone was casual, too casual, like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. I forced a smile and told her to have fun, even though everything inside me was screaming. I didn't follow her right away. I waited just long enough for her to think she'd gotten away with it. Then I slipped into my jacket, grabbed my keys, and quietly left the house. I kept a safe distance as I followed her car. She didn't head to any of her usual spots. No bars, no places she would go with her friends. Instead, I watched as she pulled into a dive hotel just outside of town. My stomach dropped when I saw him, tall, dark-haired, and wearing that smug grin, the kind you wear when you think you can get away with anything. I watched from a distance as they spotted each other. No hesitation. Victoria rushed toward him, her arms flying around his neck like they hadn't seen each other in years. He pulled her in tightly, like she was the only thing that mattered. And then they kissed, right there, in front of the hotel entrance. I snapped a few pictures. Each one felt like another piece of the truth falling into place, one I never wanted to see. They didn't even look around. They were too caught up in their own world, ignoring everything else. He kissed her again, more urgently this time, and I could see her melt into him, the way she used to melt into me. the way I thought she still would if she ever saw me again. I waited as they walked into the hotel. My pulse raced. Every step they took toward that door was a step deeper into the betrayal I couldn't avoid. I didn't need to see more, but I couldn't look away. They disappeared behind those double doors. I stood there outside, the cold biting at my skin, the weight of everything crashing down on me. My body felt like lead. She was in there, with him, doing all the things I thought were reserved for us. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was too numb to be angry. But as the minutes dragged on, something inside me snapped. My jaw tightened, and a cold fury spread through me. She had to know this wasn't just about her. It was about the trust she had shattered. The life we were supposed to build together, destroyed for some guy she met on a trip. The air felt thick around me, like time itself had frozen. I could feel my pulse pounding in my temples, the anger simmering just below the surface. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not like this. Not after everything. A few days later, we had a family gathering at our house. It was supposed to be a celebration. Everyone was there, her parents, my parents, our closest friends. It was the perfect setting, the kind of day where you'd expect to hear wedding plans and future dreams. Instead, I was about to turn everything upside down. I stood up, cleared my throat, and felt the weight of everyone's eyes on me. I could see Victoria in the corner of the room, laughing with her friends, her fake smile still fresh on her face. She didn't know what was coming. I pulled out my phone, my hands steady despite everything inside me twisting. I looked at her one last time before I spoke. I just want to say how much I love Victoria, how lucky I am to have her, and to show everyone I made a little slideshow. The room fell quiet. I connected my phone to the TV, the familiar click of the screen changing. No one suspected a thing. Then the pictures flashed up on the screen. Victoria, smiling with him. Her arms wrapped around his neck. The kind of smile she used to give me. The next photo showed them kissing. My chest tightened as I stared at the image, the room suddenly feeling heavier. Gasps filled the silence. Then came the last picture. Victoria, hand in hand with him, walking into the hotel. My stomach lurched as the room filled with whispers. Her mother's face went pale, her hand shooting up to cover her mouth. Her father's face turned crimson with rage. "Andrew, what the hell is this?" Victoria's voice cracked as she stood, her face draining of color. I met her eyes with a calmness I didn't even know I had. "This is you, Victoria. The real you. Not the woman I thought I was marrying." Her breath hitched, her eyes wide with panic. "I can explain," she began, her voice desperate. She took a step forward, reaching for me, but I took a step back, not giving her the chance to get close. "Don't. Just don't. There's nothing to explain." I shook my head, my voice flat, controlled. I turned to the room, looking at her parents, our friends. "The wedding is off." My words were final, sharp. "And Victoria, pack your stuff. You're out of my house." Her sobs filled the room. She reached out again, but there was nothing left for her to hold on to. I didn't care anymore. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by the woman in those pictures. I turned and left the room. I knew, deep down, I would never look back. She packed her things and left that night. I didn't see her again. The days that followed were filled with desperate messages from Victoria. She begged, she cried, promising regret, change, and that it would never happen again. But it didn't matter. Her words were just noise, empty and hollow. I didn't respond. She had made her choice in Europe. I made mine that night. I could have tried to forgive, but I wasn't going to live a lie. She crossed a line, and that was it. I chose myself. Finally, I could breathe again. No more pretending, no more holding on to something that wasn't coming back. I let go of the emotions I'd wasted on her and threw them out with everything else she left behind. I didn't need closure or apologies. I needed peace. And I've never looked back. Not when she reached out months later, not when her friends tried to convince me to talk to her. Every memory I once cherished faded. The next few months I focused on rebuilding my life. I focused on myself, on healing. I slowly started moving forward, even gave Sophie a chance. She'd always flirted with me when I was engaged, but I took things slow. She respected that. And for the first time I felt like I wasn't chasing shadows. In the end, I learned the most important thing. You can't build a future with someone who doesn't stay true to you. I chose myself, and I was better for it. Thank you for watching.